good? All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I think the last time we were together was post-trade deadline, so obviously a lot has happened since then. But at the time we talked about the group that we had that we believed in. I think those guys, despite the ultimate end that was painful, did a lot to prove us right. A great run towards the playoffs, and then a hard-fought series against the Warriors. And I think right now we're seeing some of the recognition for that group from, I got a list here so I don't forget them all, but Tomas and De'Aaron as all-stars, Keegan setting the rookie three-point record, coach, unanimous coach of the year, congrats to him and his staff, Pacific Division champions, De'Aaron, clutch player of the year award, and of course, the return to the playoffs for this city and organization was fantastic. A tough end always is when you make the playoffs, but proud of Coach Brown and his staff for what they did from day one up until Game 7 here. So a fantastic run. We've talked, I think, since I came here about kind of a short-term goal of making the playoffs. I'm happy to finally have that box checked, but it also means now on to the next goal of building this thing into a long-term playoff team, win some rounds in the playoffs, and ultimately contend for a title like we've talked. So the job's never done. We know we got work to do, but happy to take questions.
Yeah, Monte, first of all, congratulations on Executive of the Year. Secondly, you've built a staff here, you've built a culture here over your 3 years. So how good does it feel to actually see it work out? I mean, when you take a job like this that many had failed in before, it's not a sure thing, but you guys have really turned the corner here. And yeah. Where's your sweater vest?
We were just talking about that on the way over. My signature vest it was lucky for parts, but it's in the wash right now. So, first of all, thanks to Vivek for just his faith in me and my group, and we got the group back there who I've mentioned many times, but Wes, Phil, Paul, Alvin, on and on down for our front office. It's a lot of work, but that went into it. But those guys do a ton. But I think, we always have, I think the faith that in the decisions we're making, that we think it will work out. We're putting ourselves in a good position, but it's always nice to have the validation. We got a lot of that this year. We know there's more to go, but it's certainly nice to see the results, manifest on the floor.
It's been almost a year since you hired Mike Brown. When you first came in, he was talking about solo organization. That seemed like it's figuring itself out right now.
Yep.
Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Yesterday, you did talk about the connectivity up and down the line. Just mentioned Vivek. He mentioned Martina yesterday. Just wanted to get your thoughts about how that come together as far as being a solo organization.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, Mike's unanimous coach of the year speaks for itself, and the job that him and his staff did, fantastic. And I think I've talked a lot about too. I know my strengths and weaknesses, and Mike's a fantastic compliment to me. He's an incredible culture builder. We saw from day one all the way through the ups and downs of the season. We got a pretty young team, and to be able to coach them, get the most out of them. Prepare them. We had, I don't even know, 5 or 6 guys, I think, make their playoff debut this year. And to take the defending champs to 7, to have those guys continue to respond while still having a voice that they listen to through all that is, what makes them special.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about 2 specific player situations in the offseason. Starting with Sabonis, obviously he's extension eligible. The CBA has altered the rules a little bit. How do you view, do you feel like that is a conversation that will be explored?
Yeah, Tomas is obviously an all-star this year. I think should be all-NBA along with De'Aaron, so we'll find that out soon. But, yeah, Tomas is a huge part of obviously what we do, and we're going to, do all we can to keep him here and build around him.
And then Barnes is probably your highest profile free agent. Just what's your view on his potential future here?
Yeah, no, I think for us, look, we're, I don't even know, 3-4 days away from a pretty painful And so we're going to sit down and have all those conversations. Obviously, Harrison's been a fantastic part of our team, a vet leader, and one of two guys with championship experience for us, which was a big part of getting our young guys ready to go. So we'll have all those conversations in the coming weeks.
Monty, Mike has said even yesterday and throughout the year that to go to the next level is going to be even harder than what you guys achieved making the playoffs. Just what's that look like in your mind, the team taking that next step towards perennially contending and then potentially, becoming a championship type team?
One great thing is when you're able to kind of break through into the playoffs with a team as young as ours, it gives you the chance to have a nice long playoff run and have a lot of success in the playoffs. It doesn't guarantee anything, so we know we got a lot of work to do. 48 wins is fantastic for this group, but teams that go deep in the playoffs are usually winning in the 50s or higher. So we know we got to continue to improve, and that's going to come internally and externally. So we got I think a great group here. Those guys showed what they have the potential to do, and now Mike and I both talked about it at the end of the season. Big off season. Years to come to continue to grow and continue to learn from this playoff exit and what can we do to go further. But we're always going to have to continue to improve this team no matter what. Because as we'll see, whether it's staff, players, you're going to have to replace guys even if you're having success. So, that's just the challenge for us going forward.
Monty, what did you see from your two All-Stars throughout the course of this season, not only as individuals but as a pairing? And how does it change roster construction for you when you have those two guys locked in?
We do a lot of kind of planning and forecasting of what it's going to look like. And we talked about it when we initially traded for Tomas and our vision. But until it comes together, it's, you're not sure exactly what it's going to look like. But those two guys have just, I think, surpassed expectations, both individually and with each other. And then really ultimately with how their teammates play off of them and play with them. So, seeing that's been great. Those two guys they not only are great individually, they make the game easier for others, but guys love to play with them. Their unselfishness, their ability to make their teammates better, their personalities, all those things give us a chance to be pretty special.
Yeah, Monty, one of the first things you did when you got the job was give De'Aaron Fox that max extension. I'm curious now, 3 years later, where have you seen him grow the most, maybe as a player and a person?
I think De'Aaron certainly made some strides this year. We all saw that. But on the other hand, and a lot of people in this room, I think, saw what De'Aaron could do. And in a lot of ways, it's just the national media, the public catching up to that, him being on a bigger spotlight in the playoffs. But to go into your first playoffs and do what he did and then to continue to do it with, playing through an injury, and come up just one half short is incredible. And and now he knows it's on him to continue to grow and lead this team and take us deeper into the playoffs. But he had a fantastic season, and he's going to get a ton of accolades. He already has, and they're well deserved. And he's going to continue to grow as not just a player but a leader for us, like he's done.
Hey, Monty, what would you what would you identify as maybe your priority heading into this offseason? And would that be any different than maybe what it had been around, say, trade deadline? As the evolution of the season goes on, did it change at all as you enter to the point where you are now?
No, I think it's always good to see our guys, and I think almost every challenge that came up, if they didn't knock it out the first time, they were able to overcome it pretty quickly. And so seeing our guys do that, not just in the regular season, but then, you get down 3-2 to the champs, you got to go to their home court, and we win by whatever it was, 18, 19 points. Obviously, Game 7 didn't go the way we want, but that's a big step, that Game 6 win. All that stuff is going to factor in. We got to sit down here, take a breath, hug our families for a little bit, but then we'll get back to it next week, and we'll have all those conversations about how do we go forward. But we have a fantastic group here. We have a lot of youth, which means that those guys have room to grow. But it also means that there's a challenge for them to continue to grow. It's not, nothing is guaranteed, as we know in this business. And so we had, I don't even know, 5 or 6 guys in the building today, which is a great sign. And we know those guys are going to work, but it's just going to get harder each step from here. And, continuing to answer those challenges is going to be, what's put in front of us.
Monty, congratulations, first of all, on the award and everything this year. How much flexibility, positional flexibility, do you see in the group you have, and specifically like the 3, 4, 5 spots? Do you guys see Keegan as a guy who, depending on like what's available to you in the offseason, could Keegan move from one spot or another between the 3 and the 4? Would you consider, Tomas flexible in terms of the 4 and 5 spots?
I think we have a lot of versatility, which has been good. Throughout the season, I think we saw Keegan guard 4s. He guarded Jordan Poole to start a couple of the playoff games. So his versatility on the defensive end, for sure. I think we saw offensively what he can do. Tomas, we've seen, I think, again, he's played with centers before that are bigger than him, and he can play, I think, both positions on both ends, which gives us the ability to kind of, have options to build around. But it's certainly important. The more of that you have, the more options it gives you down the road, the more options it gives coach in a game or throughout a season. And, I think we had some pretty good versatility with our guys, which is just another nice thing to have. But, the ability to just start with De'Aaron and Tomas and be able to fill in around those guys. So many guys can play with them, and they'll make them look good, that it makes our job a little easier.
Monty, first off, congratulations. Tomas said he was going to a specialist on Monday. I wonder if you have an update on his medical status, if he will need surgery or not.
No update right now, but knowing Tomas, he is as tough as they come. Whatever he needs to do, I know he'll be ready to go next year, but no update right now.
Monty, I'm curious about the timeline for this team getting to the playoffs from when you got hired. If this was ahead of schedule, if this was later than, I'm sure it was later than you would have liked. You would have liked it right when you got here. But the timeline with that, and then the amount of success that you had this year with Mike Brown his first year, if that was kind of ahead of schedule in your mind.
I think I was talking about it with a few folks, but it was obviously we would have loved to make the playoffs my first year, but the way that it happened this year, especially with the COVID restrictions and different things, with fans not allowed in the buildings and those types of things, it would have been a bit of a letdown if we didn't have the fans were absolutely amazing. Couldn't even hear announcer Scott for the player intros in game 1, and so that part I think was special. Again, we try not to put a timeline on it. We said we want to make the playoffs as soon as we can, such that we can build this thing out. And I think we're in that position. So I would say a success for step 1 and on to step 2.
Monty, hey, way back here. A little over a year ago, last February, you had pulled the trigger on acquiring DeMarcus through the trade, giving away Tyrese Halliburton. At the time, needless to say, was met with some heated opinions, even criticism of some sort. You look a year later, you're sitting up there, executive of the year, and, had this incredible, successful season. I know you're a very humble person, but is that kind of like a I told you so kind of moment, just trusting the process and good things will happen?
If I knew we would be here right now, maybe I would have said it at the time. But again, we we felt very good in what Tomas could do for us and how he would pair with De'Aaron. We still had a lot of work to do. We had a big summer after that really helped to fill in around those guys and solidify what ended up being the playoff team. But look, we know when fans or media or whoever is saying something about a transaction, what they're really saying is, like, I want this to work out. And so sitting here this year, it just means that we're happy that we've reached this point. Again, we'll continue to take bets that we think have a good chance to work out. We're not gonna bat 1,000. So there's gonna be other times where we take them and they don't work out. But we've had a nice run. Credit to my group there for pushing me on a lot of them, and and credit to Mike and the players for ultimately putting it all together. We talked a lot about like the individuals we bring in and the talent level and who they are as human beings, but you never know what it's going to be, especially when you have a ton of turnover like we had. New coaching staff, I think we turned over half the roster. You don't know what it's going to look like. And so credit to those guys. I know they had a lot of great comments the other day about the, just the camaraderie that the team had and how they were all pulling for each other, how Mike and their staff helped do that. And so to me, that's the special part, is seeing it all come together, and not knowing what's going to happen.
Monty, I'm curious, after this remarkable season, if there was one decision maybe that sticks out more to you that helped you get over the hump of getting the season to the playoffs, or if you think, it's also paired with some luck and a bunch of decisions that were made.
Yeah, I don't think it was one. It was, look, like I said, we try to, each decision, we try to put ourselves in a better spot. And we've had big trades. We've had signings. We've had hirings, obviously coach. All those things go into it, and certainly a nice little sprinkle of luck here and there doesn't hurt. But it's never one thing, and I think this time in particular, it was many things, and not just the guys that we brought in, the guys that were here, who took steps, who bought into what a new coaching staff was preaching, fit in with their new teammates. So there's a ton of credit to go around, and it's testament to all those folks.
Monty, I know part of the draft process for you guys is projecting out players, and you have models that help you do that. I'm curious how Keegan did relative to what you projected for him. I know obviously you guys are high on him, and Mike talked about him, being in a rare position as a lottery pick who's starting for a playoff team. But just in general, how did Keegan perform this season relative to your expectations, and what do you need him to improve upon going into next year?
Yeah, I was hoping I was be able to read off Keegan Murray Rookie of the Year on here, but that was not to be. But a rookie who started 7 games in a playoff series was, if not, I believe, the most winning impact rookie on the court this year. And while we didn't ask him to come in and shoot 30 shots, he certainly could have. I mean, he was the leading scorer in college basketball last year. But to come in and know what we need, which is actually defend multiple positions, hit shots, cut to the basket, play off our veterans. I thought it was a fantastic year for him. I wish I could say I knew he was going to come in and shoot 40% and hit over 200 threes, but testament to him, he came in and surpassed expectations. And for him, it's just, I think he said it, it's just a continued learning experience. I think we even saw the playoffs being a microcosm of his season, and hopefully what his career is to come. And he just got better and better as the playoff series went on, and was one of our best players in Game 6 and 7. I think I wish he had gotten more accolades, but the good thing about Keegan is he doesn't care, and he knows that he contributed to winning, and we're going to need him to just continue to take on more and more going forward, and he's going to be able to do that, I think.
Monty, 2 things. Number one, like mid-season, you didn't even have a contract for next season, and that was like a big topic of debate, and here you are with Executive of the Year. How much does that sort of, what does it mean to you to get that and to know that you're going to be here long term? And then also, Every time we hear Monty, it's always Monty and Wes. How much has Wes meant to you in this 3-year journey as you've taken on your first job?
Well, I think my wife is the most happy, so we can settle in. This is actually, I think I mentioned this before, but this is the first house I've bought. We rented in Houston. We lived, I think, in 8 places in 9 years. So it's just nice to call something home. And, my kids love it here. And so that part's fantastic, in addition to all the people, in the organization that we get to work with and be around. And, you guys and the community has been fantastic. But, Wes gets mentioned a lot, and he does a ton for us. And, he would then point to Phil, and who runs our draft process. And I get to take credit for all Phil's fantastic lottery picks. And then Phil would point to Paul, who was the GM of the year in Stockton, and Paul would point on down the line. So, and I talked about it too. We're going to, the sign of a good organization is that people are going to move on, and Wes is going to be a GM again someday. He's already built a 60-win team, which I haven't even got to 50 yet. So, like Phil and Paul, who I just mentioned, are going to run a team someday, and we're going to have to backfill them. And I hope those things come, because it means it's healthy for our organization. But it's a group effort, and those guys do a ton. And especially the times when I'm not at my best, which as they can say, happens probably more often than I'd like, but those guys keep pulling me through.
You talk about needing or wanting to take the leap next year. Your regular season statistical profile would obviously scream defense, but you did defend at times in that first round series much better than the regular season. How much do you take from what you saw in the playoffs defensively, and do you expect the priority still to be kind of to improve on that end going into the offseason?
The biggest thing is, as we talked about, a 48-win team is a success for us this year, but we're going to have to build on that and continue to try to be better. Our net rating was in the 2 to 3 range. That's going to have to improve. And so whether that comes from, if we can somehow add to the number one offense and get that to +5 or +6, great. I think more likely that comes from the defensive end, just given where we were respectively on each end of the court. And, and Mike's going to always say our defense isn't good enough, even when that's number one too, which is what makes him great. But, our goal is going to be, how do we improve, whether it's maintain our offense and make our defense better. Does that come from internal improvement? Do we need something externally to help that? Can we improve both? That would be my goal. I think our offense showed a lot this year, but like you said, our defense at times showed what it can do. And to guard those guys, how we did for stretches. Obviously, I know Mike pointed to some of the offensive rebounding in Game 7. There were, it wasn't perfect, but we guarded, and we can do it. We can be better, just with what we got here, and we'll continue to look at ways to improve that externally also. But we know we just got to get the ball's got to continue to be pushed forward for us to get where we want to go.
Monty, Jeff Petrie, he's just getting back to the executive of the year. Of course, Jeff won it several years ago. Now you and Pete Carrillo, he's been part of this organization. I do want to highlight that Mitch Henderson won on this floor. They beat Arizona. Do you take any stock, coming from an Ivy League institution, and take any stock in, what you do and how it affected your career?
Well, I appreciate you putting my name in with, Jeff Petrie, who's a 20-point-a-game scorer and Rookie of the Year, and Coach Carrillo, who's a Hall of Famer, Mitch Henderson, who's pretty iconic in Princeton basketball lore. You won't find my name in many Princeton record books, but you can. I did have one touchdown catch if you want to look it up, Tony. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to have a little bit of a Princeton kind of thread running through here. I was actually bummed that I didn't get to see the Sweet 16 run here. I was out on the road scouting, but that part's cool. But just a little footnote to I think what really matters here, which is what our players are doing, the fans and their experiences. And it's we're best viewed when we're not in the spotlight. When just sitting back and watching our guys go out and compete and win. And so that's what, I think is the most special.
Monty, I think they should have got you the ball a lot more that year at Princeton. To follow up on Slater's question about defense, the shooting was a big priority last year. You also mentioned defense. You obviously addressed the shooting. So as you go into this summer, I just wonder, is that a delicate balance for you? Do you have to make sure you maintain the same level of shooting for the system you guys have put in place here? And if you could maybe just speak a little more about defense and where you feel like the specific needs are on that side.
Yeah, shooting, especially as we saw this year, and in the NBA, it's just going to become more and more important. So, shooting is always going to be something we need to put on the floor, especially just to maximize Tomas and De'Aaron and just the incredible space they create. But yeah, anytime, you always want to continue to shore up your deficiencies, but you don't want to pull on one string and, lose another. So we're going to have to do it in a way that, we were able to put all the things we need on the floor for both offense and defense. So, I don't know, delicate balance. Everybody's has the same challenge, but yes, we need to maintain and improve. We can't just make trade-offs that keep us in the same spot. Defensively, I thought we did a lot of good things. Mike did a fantastic job just laying a foundation, especially for a new coach to come in and try to do this with a bunch of new bodies. It's not going to be perfect from day one, but despite our, maybe game 7, our defensive rebounding was top 10 all year. That's fantastic. That's a lot of effort and just getting in the mix. We're really not like a huge team this year. We didn't foul. We didn't give teams easy buckets, by staying at the free throw line. We turned teams over. Obviously teams were able to find some success in the paint, but that's, in some ways the makeup of our team this year. So, we'll look at ways to maybe shore that up, but we want to do it in a way that we're continuing to, do what makes us special. And, this year that was our offense, and, we showed defensively that we can be better. And if we get that thing, like I said to Anthony, we can keep our offense where it is, improve our defense. And now we're hitting some of those indicators that say, this is a contending team. So that's going to have to come both internally and externally.
Just a couple real quick. I was curious, you start off taking this job, and here you are sitting today as Executive of the Year. I'm just wondering, what do you know now that maybe you didn't know then that you were going to, within that journey to get here today? Like, what was kind of like the biggest takeaway from when you took the job to where you are today?
I wish I would have known. It would have been a little less stressful at certain points. But no, it's you learn so much of this job, and credit to we got Alvin, Wes has been a GM, Joe Dumars was here, and on. The people who have just lent their advice and experience to me along the way has been huge. And I hope I'm at a better spot as an executive now than I was when I came in, but that would just be because of the people who have helped me along the way. But really, it's just about getting good people in here, because you can't do it alone, not even close. And you gotta lean on those folks. And we've done a great job, I think, of the people that were already here, the people we brought in, not just the players that we talk about, but our staff. They've all done a fantastic job to just help support me and this whole organization.
And then, there's obviously a lot of curiosity around Sasha Vujacic. I just wonder how realistic of a possibility that can become for next season, and maybe conversely how strong the desire is of you guys wanting to land him here.
Yeah, Sasha's a guy, obviously, we traded for the rights last year and continue to track. He's playing in the EuroLeague playoffs right now. So right now we're enjoying watching him and his team, and they've had a fantastic year. And, Olympiacos is a fantastic club. And, we've been able to get to know him a little bit. And, so again, we'll sit down and see what our offseason look like here in the next few weeks. And that'll be a decision for later in the summer. But right now, enjoying watching him in the playoffs. Real quick, folks, I'd like to, I guess Shannon's got the trophy, but if I can get Wes and Phil, Paul, Alvin to come up, and I just like to recognize these guys for all the work they put in. So. I don't know if I can carry it, so. Thank you, guys. What do you want to do, Becky?
Becky just tells us all what to do.
Can I also, can everybody, you guys know, can I thank Becky, Shannon, Michael, Avery for all their work? So.